Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you are new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And Chelsea are enjoying somewhat of a late season resurgence with a top six finish somehow still on the cards and very possible. A tactical switch from Pochettino at halftime against Aston Villa, inverting Marc Cucurella into midfield when in possession has worked a treat. You know, looked like a different side since it's happened. Cucurella looks like a different player. And in the subsequent games against Spurs and West Ham, we probably put in two of our best performances of the season. But I'm delighted to be joined by Connor, as always, mate. Thanks for coming. We're going to take a deeper dive into this tactical switch, why it's made a difference, what it means for Enzo Fernandez, who I'm seeing a lot of Chelsea fans saying, oh, we know we're playing better because Enzo's not here, when for me, that just simply isn't the case and such a lazy narrative to take. But, mate, let's dive into it. Of course, it's important to point out that this improvement isn't just the last 2.5 matches. Like this calendar year, only Arsenal, City and Liverpool have taken more points than us in 2024. Now, I know there's been some disappointing results with Sheffield United and your Burnies and whatnot, but it's undeniable there has been an improvement since the turn of the year. But these last 2.5 games have really signified something looking like it's clicking. Now, I know it might seem obvious, but why has inverting Cucurella into midfield when the team's in possession seemingly made such a huge difference? And I don't think it's a coincidence that Moises Caicedo, who's been in good form anyway, suddenly had 2 of his best games of the season as well.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, to put into it with Caicedo, is he was a lot of the time he was left on an island. And again, this was down to Pochettino's tactics. So what he's actually done here is actually huge, in my opinion, because he's, you could say evolved, but you could almost say he's willing to change things up. He's realized the issue and he's actually made the proactive change himself. So that's one of the biggest things for me, because I was one of the people that I wasn't 100% sure if Pochettino had it in him to switch it and actually go against what he'd been doing, but he has. And I think it's been, like we've said, it's been absolutely huge in terms of changing things around. But just having that extra man in the midfield with Cucurella there, you now have this 3-2 base setup instead of what was a lot of the time a 3-1, where he'd push Enzo Fernandez and Gallagher up away from Caicedo, and you just had Caicedo as basically a single pivot. But this just knits the team together so much nicer, and you just have those 5 players in close proximity. But I think even more so than how it helps us to circulate the ball, having 5 players behind and having those in close proximity, what actually helps more is the rest defense structure that you have with that 3-2, because what we're doing now is we're pushing up more gradually as we keep the ball. And then once we get to the halfway line, you've basically got those 3 defenders on the halfway line and the 2 midfielders just ahead. And they're all still close together, so that if the ball does break, you've got Caicedo and Cucurella who can aggressively counter press, and we're just sustaining the ball so much more. And because we're pushing teams back so far, they've only got 1 or 2 outlets to play to. If you look at that game against West Ham, it was pretty much every ball that was going up to Antonio, he was isolated. It was him and Bowen would join quite late, and we was managing to keep them stuck in their half, and that just produces more chances, more shots. And the more that you can produce that in a game, obviously the better you're going to be, and the more chance you're going to get, the more goals you're going to score. But we're also now cutting off counter attacks before they even get the chance to develop, whereas beforehand, when there was so much space between the lines, teams were breaking on us just against Caicedo, and it was almost looking like there was no midfield, and everybody was, the whole complaint at the time was the midfield just keeps getting bypassed, and there's nothing, like we're just getting bypassed too easily in the middle. But now having them all in close proximity together and all pressing as one unit, I think the aggressive nature that they've all taken now is probably the biggest part. So it's not all just the tactical switch either. I think actually the shift in mentality to be like aggressive and confident to do that with all the players around you, and they're all on the same, they're all reading off the same hymn sheet. I think that's massive.
Yeah, no, I think that there's definitely a maturity to the side this season, 100%. You know, certainly over the last couple of games, it looks like we've grown up a little bit. Decision making's better. Look at the Madueke pass to Jackson. I think earlier in the season, that would have been someone taking a shot at goal, and maybe that might have cost us a goal that could have been really important. So the side is definitely maturing. In terms of Cucurella himself, you know, he's had a difficult start at Chelsea. You know, he's booed last season. Sort of a lot of fans not understanding why we paid all that money to Brighton for him. Look, it's important to point out he's had some good performances this season before this switch of role. He's not pulled up any trees by any accounts, but on the basis of the last 2.5 games, he looks like a player transformed. He looks like the sort of player that was wanted by Pep Guardiola, and maybe he saw the vision that he was going to do that. This inverted fullback swing is now kind of sort of all the range. You see Trent doing it. You see Zinchenko sometimes do it at Arsenal. You see obviously Pep utilize multiple players doing it. Are you surprised that he's taken to the role so well? And what characteristics of Cucurella do you think seem to suit that kind of role? Because because for me personally, I didn't really think he had this in his game.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got it available to it. I don't think he's the most natural choice, because people often would look at that, and you're talking like when you use those examples you just used, Trent, Zinchenko, the main thing you're really looking at there is their passing range and their ability to affect the game from the middle of the pitch in terms of creation from deep. But with Cucurella, I think it's more of he allows you to have a better defensive structure in the middle of the pitch. He's aggressive. He's a front foot defender. So I think having him closer to the ball when it does break, you win so many extra challenges, and you just get so many extra duels out of it. Look at the free kick against, who was it? Was it against Spurs? Where Palmer hits the bar and Jackson scored the header. Cucurella wins that because he's on the edge of the box and he's proactive enough to jump aggressively, win the ball back, and then he gets fouled, which then leads to the Palmer free kick and we score from it. But this ability for him to just be closer to the ball and make those decisions. He's also an incredibly clever footballer. A lot of people might not think that because of a few sporadic mistakes defensively, but he is, in terms of, especially in possession, he's very clever in terms of his positioning. He's very good at dragging players away from the space so that Caicedo or somebody else can collect the ball. He's always pretty much available for a little 1-2 third man combination. So he's very good in that sense of keeping things simple and aiding other players in terms of just being a squad piece he's there to help everybody else flourish. And what we've seen is, in my opinion, 2.5 with that halftime against Villa, man of the match level performances. He's been that good. And it's not just his ability to do what he's doing, it's how he elevates the entire team within this structure, and just being in that center of the pitch and just being able to, like I said, sustain the ball. That means you can get the ball out to Madueke, who's been on fire. He gets more of the ball. The more touches he gets, the more confident he gets. And we're starting to reap the benefits of that. So, yeah, I'd say that the main things I'd like praise him for really is his IQ and his aggressive sort of tenacity front foot defending. I think they're his two best assets.
I mean, I want to throw this forward slightly. Cucurella, obviously, if offers do come in the summer, if it's deemed suitable, I think the club would be looking to move him on. They tried to move him on last summer. Thank God he didn't go on loan to Man United. But obviously, if a suitable offer doesn't come in, I think they'd be happy to keep him. Personally, I feel that he should stay if we're going to carry on playing this way. But my question to you is, mate, if we continue playing this way, do you see Ben Chilwell being able to play this role in a similar way that Cucurella has? Because I'm not sure if Chilwell's got that same skill set that Cucurella's got in order to do that inverted role. Of course, Chilwell's a lot better going forward, but I'm not sure if he's got the defensive capabilities in his game to get into midfield and get stuck in like Cucurella does.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think if you're going to keep Chilwell, the decision really there is that Cucurella does the inverted role and Chilwell does the outside holding width role. So when Chilwell plays, you don't do that from the left side. Sort of a bit like with Arsenal, if they have Zinchenko playing, they will invert him. But then sometimes if they have Kivior or somebody else, then they won't invert. They'll keep him to the actual left back position or a left centre back. So I think that with Chilwell, you've got more of a width holding winger. He's like a wing wide player from left back. He's decent enough at going coast to coast. He's got a decent cross on him and he can attack in the final third quite well. But yeah, I don't think he's got the IQ to play in the middle of the pitch in terms of just his overall surrounding. He's not got that midfield level surrounding awareness. And yeah, I agree. I don't think he's got the tenacity either, really. At least in the middle of the pitch. I think sometimes in 1v1 duels, he's not the worst in terms of trying to be aggressive and keep those wingers facing their own goal. But it's not like Cucurella where he's got the mindset to know when to jump and when not to. So yeah, I think with Chilwell, it would definitely be he'd be playing wide if he does play, and Cucurella would be inverting. I think the other thing to maybe account for is if Chilwell was to play wide, then maybe you invert one of the right backs, Reece or Gusto. So I think maybe he wants that sort of flexibility where one week he can have Cucurella inverting, and then another week Chilwell would start, Cucurella wouldn't, and then Gusto would start, or Reece, and they'd be inverting, because I think they're more suited to inverting than Chilwell. I think he's the least suited of those four players to that role.
Yeah, no, I would agree on that. And I think that's the great thing about having that tactical flexibility. If you want to have a Chilwell to bomb on forward and attack and offer more in the final third, which Cucurella doesn't do, then you've got that option. And of course, we know that Reece James, I mean, obviously I haven't seen him do it, but he's got the skill set to be able to do that. I look at Malo Gusto and I agree with you. I think he's also got that skill set to invert into the middle of the park and help with build up play from that right hand side. So I don't think going forwards we should just be limited to inverting from the left. I think there's good options to invert from the right hand side as well. One thing I did want to address, mate, is this lazy narrative, in my view, that Chelsea are suddenly playing better because there's no Enzo Fernandez in the team. Look, and it's been difficult for Enzo this season. He's been playing for 6 months with a hernia issue, taking injections before games, which a lot of fans didn't realise until he said it, and they're all so quick to judge. I don't think Pochettino's helped Enzo in the way that he's utilised him at times this season in the team. But how can you see Enzo Fernandez next season fitting into this tactical setup that we're employing at the moment? Because you would presume that he would take on that Conor Gallagher role.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's a lazy narrative. I think, if anything, Enzo elevates us even more in this system, the way we're playing, because you then have the ball playing ability from deep that he offers in build up, and it would just unlock so many doors. I think what we've been begging out for this season, crying out for, is sustained possession and keeping the ball. And now that we've finally got it, we don't have our best ball playing midfielder in the team to actually reap benefits from it. So I think when he comes back, if we continue to play this way, fingers crossed it happens, we'll see a different version of him, because he'll be having so much more of the ball. He'll actually be able to stamp his authority on games and control from deep. I think my issue with it would partly be how he does it, because like you said with the Gallagher role, I actually think maybe Caicedo would move into that sort of Gallagher role, and then Enzo would be the one to sit slightly deeper and always be on the ball in possession. But then that also then means that Caicedo has to be more switched on defensively, to always be the one breaking, to make sure that the defense is still quite well structured. But the other thing that I kind of want to address as well with Enzo, I don't actually think he's as immobile as people like to make out. I think he's had a few injuries, but his actual ground duel ability is not bad. He's actually quite good in that regard. He's not the quickest once the ball's past him, but he's very capable if he's in the middle of the pitch. We saw it last season when he was the 6 under Graham Potter. He does actually win a fair amount of duels if he's just sat in that one area. What we have seen this season, though, is he's had to go box to box. He's been a box to box 8, and he's not got enough mobility for that role. But if he's staying and he's only moving side to side and slightly laterally, then I think there's no issue with Enzo. I think he's got more. He's not like a Jorginho in terms of mobility. He's got more mobility than a Jorginho. And like I said, his ground duel success rate is actually quite high. So I think you would definitely see. There's no way Enzo doesn't come back into this team. I agree with you. The narrative's lazy. I think he's literally. There's no way you don't have a player this talented and you don't find a way to make it work, because he is just that good.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And as you touched on, you can see Caicedo maybe taking that Gallagher role, and Enzo can play the deeper role if necessary, and vice versa. I think an interesting point is, obviously, if Conor Gallagher stays, he'll absolutely be part of that rotation, starting some games, bench other games. Yeah. How do you see Romeo Lavia fitting into this? Because we have got a lot of midfield options all of a sudden. When he returns to fitness, Andre Santos might come back. Maybe he'll go on loan. But I think the key one that a lot of people are excited to see is Romeo Lavia. Where would you see him fitting into this kind of setup if we are to continue playing this way next season?
Yeah, I'm another one that, again, when Lavia was on the table last season, I was begging. I'm a massive fan of Lavia. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But I think he'd sort of be similar to Enzo. I think he would benefit from being the deeper player in that, so he can get on the ball a bit more, and he's actually very good at driving the ball out from defence. So again, I think he'd be sort of playing where Caicedo is now, or where Enzo would play. So again, that's where the problems come in. So if you kept all 4, you're probably looking at Caicedo and Gallagher rotating that role, and Enzo and Lavia rotating in the other role, or Caicedo dropping into 1, Enzo or Gallagher playing in the 8, or like the box to box. But there's lots of different options you can fit around. But I think Lavia is definitely more suited to that sitting 6 presence, in terms of where Caicedo is currently playing alongside like Cucurella and Burton. Same as I think that's Enzo's better position. And then Caicedo, I think he can do both. And I think Gallagher's better suited to the the roaming eight, which he's done brilliantly as well. By the way, he's been absolutely brilliant in those last few games. Just being able to just knit things together and just having somebody as what's the word as good at all things as Gallagher, like a jack of all trades, just not amazing at one particular thing, but he's just good at so many different things. And his experience at such a young age, but his ability off the ball and how good he is out of possession has really helped us.
No, it massively has. And I think like you suddenly look at it and you like you think if you can keep those guys together, obviously Gallagher maybe or maybe not staying. Hopefully they sort that out because he absolutely should stay. He's got a place in the squad and a role to play for sure. You suddenly look at that and you think you've got 4 really good midfield options there, which again is why it's so important that we do get some form of European football, even if it ends up being in the Conference League, because we need these extra games to give these guys the minutes and to test out different personnel within a tactical setup, which you're not going to be able to do on a week by week basis in the Premier League, to be experimenting from game to game. Whereas if it's Conference League or Europa League, particularly in the group stages, there's that freedom to experiment a bit more, try players out in different roles and get them used to it. So that again is another reason why, it's just so important to get that. I mean, look, to round out, mate, obviously, it's a revert back to the tactics that we saw work successfully in pre-season. Do you envisage Chelsea to carry on playing this way next season? I mean, because we have almost stumbled across it, seemingly, with the injury issues and whatnot. I mean, Pochettino has said, it's been something they've been working on for a long time, but he's only decided to implement it now for whatever reasons. Do you think we will continue to play this way over the next season or so?
I'd hope so. I was trying to wrap my head around this because I with a lot of people, why did it change in pre-season when it looked so good? This is what I was trying to wrap my head around. And I think
it couldn't have just been because of Nkunku's absence, because that shouldn't mean that can't be a reason for not inverting someone into midfield because an attacker's not available.
Yeah. So the only thing I've sort of come across, and I don't actually agree with it. I think we definitely could have done this. The only thing I've sort of come across in my mind is that Poch clearly wasn't happy with anybody playing in that left half space, sort of between, so coming in from the left to make that second 10. Whereas I think now, where Gallagher's been playing as the 10 all season, maybe he's just come to the conclusion that Gallagher can do that role a bit better, because he tried it with Carney Chukwuemeka. We still played that way against West Ham until Carney got injured, and then we switched it up again. But Carney was coming in from the left and becoming that sort of left 10. But I just think, the injuries, it has to be something to do with injuries, because otherwise it just makes no sense to me, because it was working so well in pre-season and we saw all the benefits that we wanted to see from it in pre-season, and then it's come back now and we're seeing the exact same benefits again. So the massive sort of hazy part in the middle of that, it's really, I'd love to find out. I really would. I'd love to just see what Pochettino's actually thinking, because to me it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, it's not. I mean, obviously, it's better late than never to sort of stumble across it. You just got to hope it's not too little too late in terms of a top 6 finish, because you look at the table and, we should easily be in the top 6. I mean, to be perfectly honest, we should be hunting Spurs down for a 5th place finish. And, if we had picked up those extra points against Burnley and Sheffield United, we'd only be a few points behind them. And with their fixtures and their form, you'd fancy us to perhaps even overhaul them and come in the top 5, which is probably what this squad is capable of. But I also feel like going forwards, once we get all our players back fit again at the start of next season, if we are to continue playing this way, I know this is 2 big ifs, the players staying fit for the majority of the time, and if Pochettino sticks with this system, if of course he's still here, then I think there is positive thoughts going forwards, and I think we can actually be a decent team. I honestly don't think we're as far away as the table suggests we are from being a good team. I think we're knocking on the door of the top 4. To be perfectly honest, we're still a long way behind Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool. But in terms of going for that 4th place, I don't think Aston Villa are miles better than us. I don't think Spurs are considerably better than us. Newcastle, I don't think are better than us. We're certainly better than Man United and stuff. So I think with a few tweaks here and there, I honestly do think we're not far off being the best of the rest.
Yeah, I agree. I think the narrative is going to change quite quickly around this squad. I think a lot of people have had their doubts because of the age and the amount of money that's gone into the investment. But I think in the next year, you're going to see the narrative change massively around the squad. And I've said this from the get-go. I said this at the start of the season. I think the first year and a half, people are going to be a bit tentative and a bit, oh, where'd that billion go? It was spent a bit silly. I genuinely think in a year's time, people are going to be saying, that's actually a very strong squad, and that is a good looking squad for the future. So I'm happy with the squad. I've always said this. I think yes, there's a few places that can be improved, definitely, but I like the squad. I think it's a strong squad. I think fourth place. I think it's the fourth best squad in the league. I would put it that high in terms of. I think, like you said, in terms of other teams best of the rest. I think if you let this squad evolve, that's where it would be right now.
Yeah, no, I would certainly agree with that. It's going to be interesting. Of course, the summer is going to be crucial. You know, who leaves, who comes in. There are some crucial areas that need addressing, but ultimately, with the work that we've done, there's not actually an awful lot that needs to be sorted out. You know, probably 2 or 3 positions. We know we need a centre forward. We know a centre back is going to come in to replace Thiago Silva. Hopefully, Trevor Chalobah stays at the club. If Chalobah ends up staying, I'm not even sure if we need to sign another centre-back, if I'm being brutally honest. Left back, let's wait and see what happens there. But those are the 3 areas you're looking at. And then the rest of it's very much a one-in, one-out basis. But I think there are definitely positive signs for the future. But as always, there are big ifs. And the narrative could change, of course, if Poch stays, if we continue playing this way, if we recruit in the correct way, and if players can stay fit, then I think next season, as you rightly pointed out, the narrative around Chelsea will massively change. But yeah, mate, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure as always. Tactical switch is more than just, you know, putting Cucurella into midfield. It's made a difference on a number of other levels. Elevated a lot of players' games to a nut, you know, again as well, which is a real plus. And let's hope that continues going forward, because if it does, then there is definitely reason to be positive next season. Mate, if people want to check out where you do all your stuff, where should they go? They should know by now, but if they don't, let them know.
Yeah, just head over to the YouTube, Connor Holden Football. So I've got a video pretty much coming out today as well, basically speaking about the tactics again as well. And yeah, just different tactical videos. I think I spoke about the Cucurella inverting about a week ago, so you can go check that old video out as well, when it first happened against Villa, I think it was. So yeah, go check out those. And then Connor Holden 00 on Twitter as well.
Yeah, guys, I'll tag his YouTube channel in the title. Make sure you go and subscribe. Loads of great stuff on there. Twitter in the description. Go and drop him a follow. Smash the likes, guys. Subscribe if you're new around here. Catch you again in another one soon.